Speaking of basketball, though, big event happened, I guess, yesterday, Saturday, time of recording being Sunday, with the Kyle Filipowski getting run into by the students from Wake Forest while they stormed the court. What are your thoughts on court storming in general? With court and field
Look,
storming with football?
field storming, I didn't have a problem with what Tennessee did. What the problem I have with it is taking down the goalpost. That's how you hurt a lot of people. I read a thing the other day where it's like 73 people got hurt from taking down the goalpost at Michigan. And I don't remember when that was. But I don't have a problem. Like Tennessee, it was the first time they've beaten Alabama in a long time.
Hmm.
You should not, if you're an unranked team, you should not be storming the court because you beat a ranked team. I'm sorry, it shouldn't happen. Ohio State, depends on the circumstances. Like, I'm completely okay with Ohio State storming the court against Purdue. We had been, we had been bad. And we finally got a win in Diebler's first game. I'm fine with that. But I'm sorry if you're Wake, there's no reason to storm the court. And if you are, why are you running on the court with point 0.3 seconds left? And I'm tired of seeing people on Twitter or X, whatever you want, whatever name it's called today. I'm tired of seeing people blame the Duke players for being on the court while the game is still going. That, there's no reason to blame Filipowski. Caitlin Clark's the same way. And I'm an Ohio State fan. I think she flopped a little, but there's no reason for these kids to be getting hurt. You should have a 2-minute window for all the players to get off the court. You should have a 2-minute window. And then the fans can come storm the court and go be with their fellow students. I'm completely fine with that. But you're going to blame the Duke player for being on the court while there's point 0.3 seconds left on the clock. And he's just trying to get the hell out of the way. Like, what are we talking about here? I'm for court storming because you should be able to have that emotion and celebrate with your fellow students who just won a big game. But come on, guys. Like, really? Your thoughts? Because I'm sick of it.
So, being a student here at the wonderful University of South Carolina, I got the chance to not only storm the field against Tennessee my freshman year, 2 years ago during football. Um, I also got the chance earlier this year to storm the court against Kentucky. Thankfully, no one got hurt there. I'm all for storming court, field, playing surface. Both of those wins were absolutely massive wins for the respective programs that they were a part of. Um, with football, I know we were sitting there right front row as everything was going on. Tennessee had started, in fact, moving their equipment off the field before the game had ended. They knew it was coming. They knew what was about to happen. They were able to do that. When it comes to basketball, though, where you don't really have that luxury, I don't think there's any reason for kids to be on the court before that final buzzer goes off. Um, but I think, especially, it was kind of known Wake Forest was going to win that towards the end of the game. I'm not saying any Duke players
No,
at
it
fault,
wasn't.
but if you're a player and you know, hey, there's a chance these kids are going to come storm the court, I don't want to get hurt. I'm going to inch a little closer to the sideline just so I can get out of the way as fast as possible, just kind of get away and minimize my risk of injury. I'm in no way, shape, or form saying Filipowski was at fault. I don't necessarily agree with what the especially there. I think there was one weight kid who like punched him in the back. I don't
He pushed
why.
him down. He pushed him down. There was one that went and crossed his leg. And I don't blame that kid. I don't blame Filikowski for that. That's unfortunate. But you're taunting the player and pushing him down. That's unacceptable. The student probably should be banned from the stadium, if we're being honest. There's no excuse to that. And there should be punishments against the student that pushed him. No excuse for that. And you shouldn't be taunting the player when you probably didn't really deserve to win that game. And Filipowski was the one that sold that game. He should have caught. Duke was this close to tying up that game for like a couple of seconds left. I watched that game. And Filipowski called for the ball and he dropped it. and the ball went out of bounds. There's no excuse whatsoever for you to be pushing a fan or pushing a player as a fan. I don't like these, and it happens a lot. These kids are acting like 8-year-olds running after a pinata after it just broke. Tell me I'm wrong, because that's the most accurate comparison I've seen.
I can understand it having been a part of it because you have so much emotion going through. Like it's a huge win in some
You are
instances.
a grown-ass person, though. You are a grown-ass man and woman. There's no excuse for you to be acting like an 8-year-old. I'm sorry. There's just no excuse for it.
So
And I'm all for court storming, but get the guys safe first. Like, we should not be having to move our equipment off in a tight game. No, security should step up and not let anyone on the court. And if you get on the court before we tell you can, there needs to be heavy punishments enforced for it. That's how you stop these players from getting injured. Because I'm telling you, if Caitlin Clark would have had a major injury like Filipowski did, and Filipowski sprained his ankle, if Caitlin Clark would have had a major injury, every conference would have stopped it. It all would have stopped. And it's going to stop now. Because you can't have this. Because the players make too much money. Not a single one of these fans make the amount of money these players do. For the school. They don't. Yeah, they pay for the tickets, but they don't make that type of money.
So my thing with the whole Caitlin Clark thing, I don't necessarily. I think it was a little more on the dive side. I think they could have gone in the pool, but given
and I agree with that.
It almost looked like she had ran into the Ohio State girl. I mean, neither one of them were watching where they were going.
I agree with that.
It was poor situational awareness. I mean, there wasn't too many other people around. It looked like it was a little bit after, like most of the people had formed out at center court there. But I just, when it comes to like banning court storming, I don't think there's very much security is going to be able to do, especially when you have like a lot of these student sections now that are right up on the court. When I mean, they maybe have 100 security guards there for the entire arena. So what are those security guards going to do against student sections with 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 people in them?
It's the deterrence after you do it. You announce the penalty, and if someone does it, you have facial recognition. Don't act like you don't know who these students are. You can find out easily. Because y'all have student IDs, don't you?
We do have student
IDs. They got your picture on file, do they not?
I believe, yes, they do. But how are you going to do that with 9,000 people? That's going to take weeks.
It doesn't matter. You punish one person, someone's going to figure it out. And either way, it's not hard to wait for 2 minutes. I'm sorry, but most of these people weren't a fan of these schools until a year ago in their lives. At most 3 or 4. Like, you can wait 2 minutes to go be on the field with your players. And most of the time these kids are storming the court, it's for no reason whatsoever. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, I get it was an upset, but I mean, we don't need to storm the court for every upset. We don't.
I think Wake came into that game 19-7 maybe, unranked. Duke came in number 8 seed. So I think there's a little bit of merit to being able to storm the court there. And then UConn earlier this week going down to Creighton and Omaha. That was a big game. I'm all for storming the court if you're the Creighton student section there.
And I'm for storming the court. But just wait for like a minute, 2 minutes for the players to get off the court. There's no reason you should be running on the court with time left on the clock. There's absolutely zero reason.
No, I think you can wait for the game to end. I'm not saying, hey, don't wait for the game to end. But once that game ends and the masses start to move, I don't think there's any stopping that.
Until you start punishing people. Deterrence. Because eventually, you know what's going to happen. Eventually, these kids are going to start throwing haymakers. These players are going to start throwing haymakers. And I don't blame them because I'm protecting me. My career is more valuable than you acting like an 8-year-old running after these players like you're a zombie. Like, you're going to start seeing them throw haymakers. They're going to start getting defensive.
But they're going to start getting arrested. as that is against the law.
So
That is
you're
bad.
telling me the kid that pushed Filipowski down shouldn't be
Okay,
arrested for assault then?
that
Because
I think
that's the same thing. This is a two-way street.
so.
You can get that
Have
girl in Ohio
hold on,
State in trouble for
Joey.
assault.
Hold on. No way you could charge that girl at Ohio State for assault. Neither one of them were looking where they were going. They collided, looking at different angles. That was completely incidental. The thing with the weight kid,
I'm telling you with
but
the
you throw a haymaker, that's completely different than pushing him. I think light punch would be the best way to describe it. It didn't even look like it was like a full extension of the arm. Like it wasn't like an active, like he tried to like punch him, maybe a push. But you as an athlete, you throw a haymaker, that completely that is bad. I cannot get behind that at all.
I'm not getting behind it, but that's what's going to start happening. These kids are going to value their career more than you trying to storm the court. I'm telling you, it's what's going to start happening. If I'm an athlete, I'm protecting me, and I'm not condoning the violence. But if I'm an athlete who has a future ahead of me in the sport, I'm protecting me.
But how many of these kids are going to go pro? Like
It doesn't matter. I'm
the percentage
protecting me.
the percentage that translate to go pro and I have a future, it's not worth going to jail, going and getting kicked out of the school because I threw a haymaker. And if we're talking about worst of the worst here, you throw a haymaker at one kid, 100 other kids see that, you're about to get mobbed.
And I'm not condoning it, but it's going to happen at some point. The players are going to see this, and they're going to get defensive as soon as these people start running on the court. And a fight is going to start. It's going to happen at some point. You already seen an uptick in the fights between teams. It's going to happen at some point. These players are going to get defensive. And I'm telling you, if player Kalen Cart's statue gets injured in men's basketball, someone's going to fight. I'm not condoning it. I don't want it to happen. That would be the worst thing that could happen. But at some point, someone's going to get defensive. And that's the slippery slope you go down if you don't start deterring these people within a minute. Like just a minute. 30 seconds. Let the players get off the court. That's all I'm asking for. Just let the players get off the court. So that way everyone can enjoy it. You are above 18 years old. I know you can restrain your emotions for 30 seconds. That's all I'm saying. And maybe I'm coming on the wrong side of this issue, but there's no reason you can't wait 30 seconds for these players to shuffle to the paint of the court and not the hardwood. Like that's where I lean on it.
That's what I talked about, being like an athlete, being able to realize and have the consciousness, be like, hey, there's a chance they're going to storm here. I'm going to make my way not to the locker room, but kind of inch a little closer to the side, a little closer to the exit, just so that when the inevitable does happen, I'm not putting myself in harm's way.
But here's the thing: it's one thing if it's a blowout, but I think that game was a 4-point game.
Yeah, it was.
It was a 2-point game until 4 seconds left.
Two free throws there at the end put it out of reach for Duke.
Yeah, see, let me bring this on. Penn State I believe was down 80 to 72 or 79 to 72 with 34 seconds left, and they came back. If it shows that is possible. If I am Duke, I'm not giving up. If it's that close if it is within 4 points, 2 scores, I'm not giving up. And I'm not gonna be closer to the sideline just because your fans want to storm the court. That's not what's gonna happen. Especially when I'm competing for a better spot in the tournament. It's not I'm not getting closer to the sideline. That's like it should not be on me for you to control yourself as a fan when I'm competing for this game, which is what you paid to watch. And storming the court's not a right; it's a privilege that these schools are allowing you to do. They're gonna start enforcing this more and more. And these conferences have already started talking about imposing heavy fines. And you know what? On the schools. And you know what's gonna start happening when
the SEC already does it. But you look at what happens every time an SEC team storms the court. It ends up being worth it. Like the opportunity
to the student.
But I mean,
until someone gets hurt again.
When we stormed the court against Kentucky, the athletic program had no problem paying the fine. When we stormed the field against Tennessee, they were overjoyed, and I believe our athletic director said it was the easiest $100,000 he ever had to pay.
And that's fine. And you can be happy about that until it happens to your player. I guarantee you would not feel the same way if this happened to South Carolina. You're not going to be like, oh man, my player should have been closer to the end of the court earlier. Like, that's not how you're going to feel. Like, and I'm not even saying that about Caitlin Clark in Iowa. Like, I think they were both in the wrong. I think Caitlin Clark flopped a little bit to get attention, but they were both in the wrong. And I think Caitlin Clark should have moved towards the end of the court earlier. But I mean, you're on, like, my thing with this specific incident is you're on the court with time left on the clock, and this kid got injured when it was not his fault, and there were 4 seconds left in the game, and you were down 2. And that is my problem with all this.
I was with you on that. When there's time left on the clock, you shouldn't be on the court. But once the time's out, as a player, when you realize you no longer have a shot to win, like once that win is unattainable.
That is a bad way to look at it, though.
Well, okay, yeah, you mentioned the Penn State where they had momentum, they had it going their way. Well, at a certain point, when you're a team, you're down 4 seconds left. You see that shot go up, and you don't feel like it's going to go in. Or I'm actually not going to use that example because weirder things have happened. But you're down 5, 6 with seconds left on the clock, and it's like not really happening. I'm gonna like look and be like, okay, that's my plan to get out of here.
So, as a coach, you're gonna just tell your you're gonna encourage your players. We're spending way too long on this, but as a coach, you're going to encourage your players. You know, there's 6 seconds left on the clock. You know, the game only goes for 39 minutes and 54 seconds. So with 6 seconds left and you're down by 6, just move to the side. Move to the side. Let the fans have it. Let the fans have it, because this is what it's really about.
No.
Like, no.
Hold on. In the instance where it's like, because I'm not going to say, hey, we're down 6 with 6 seconds left. It's going to be like, go for it. But like, you look at like what happened with UConn earlier this week. They got blown out by double digits. That's like, okay, yeah, we're going to lose. There's no real point in trying to, like, it was known that was going to happen. Creighton was making a lot of threes down the stretch to kind of even pull away even more, even though that game was in their pocket. But it's kind of like, once it's known that you're going to lose, once you realize, hey, there is no shot left, that's when you're like, okay, now winning is no longer a priority because we can't. Like, it's impossible. It's done. Now, as a coach, my responsibility is to help my players be as safe as they can.
My thing is it shouldn't be on the players to protect themselves from the fans.